days past, a few months and a few days past the new elected officials that have been placed in office. And again, we're getting the same rhetoric, the same attitudes, the same look away. When we're talking about accountability, what has to happen is, if you see something, because everybody sees, they know who the players are. And if you're silent, you're complicit. If you look away, you're complicit.
If you see something, because everybody sees, they know who the players are. And if you're silent, you're complicit. If you look away, you're complicit. The individuals who partook in this murder, that's exactly what it was. We can floss it, we can dazzle it up, but the truth of the matter is, this was murder. And if we feel comfortable, I heard somebody say it's not normal, but if we feel comfortable with what we have been experiencing, folks,
Hey guys, thanks for jumping on. This is a video from downtown Minneapolis at the relating to the officer-involved shooting. These are a bunch of community leaders that are speaking out. Hey guys, thanks for jumping on. Just trying this out. I'm busy on a job site, so I can't really get there, but I wanted to reshare this stream. Let me know if you can hear the audio. It should pick up here in a minute where they're talking. Basically, these protesters are demanding the release of the body cam, transparency, answers from the mayor, the interim police chief. They want answers. Why? So more facts and details are coming out, not necessarily from the government, but from independent people going out there and interviewing witnesses. I guess MPD went to 2 other apartments before they went to the apartment where this gentleman was shot. The guy had a carry permit. Everything was legal and legit, and they went in there, and they want to see the body. They want the body cam footage to be released. It doesn't stop. All they're asking for is transparency to see if the officer did something wrong. You can hear the audio? Okay, good. I'm still learning the system, so bear with me.
Good early evening. My name is Mohammed Ibrahim. I'm with CARE Minnesota. It's MOHAMED. Last name IBRAHIM, and I'm the Deputy Director with CARE Minnesota. I think in situations like this, it's not about the information that the city officials decide to release, but more so it's about the information that they are keeping away from the public. If we are startled from a mistaken pre-dawn police raid and sought protection, can police officers mistakenly enter our homes and slaughter us down? I think what we saw from a lot of reports that a lot could have happened before those 9 seconds, during those 9 seconds, and after those 9 seconds. But what should not have happened in those 9 seconds is Amir Locke losing his life. So to start us off with this press conference, we're going to have Michelle Gross, the president of Communities United Against Police Brutality.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Gross. I'm the president of Communities United Against Police Brutality. Our organization is utterly disgusted and horrified at the conduct of the Minneapolis police in the matter of this serving this warrant at the Bolero apartment complex. We have many, many questions as activists in this community about why this happened and why this was so poorly planned and of course the results. And the information that the city has given us is woefully inadequate. There is a set of data that is, to quote the law, public at all times in the originating agency, and that's under Minnesota Statute 13.82 Subdivision 2. One of those pieces of data is the name of the officer. There's several other pieces of data, but also the name of the victim. To date, the city has not fulfilled its obligation to release this man's name officially. It is only by virtue of the family reporting that we know that his name was Amir Locke. Only by virtue of the family reporting. And once again, the city is violating the law by failing to provide this information. And more than that, they are lacking in transparency with the wider range of information that the community is asking for and that Mr. Locke's family surely deserves. For example, why was there a search warrant for items? And keep in mind, a search warrant is not an arrest warrant. It is a warrant for items, for property. Why was a search warrant issued for a pre-dawn raid on a no-knock warrant? Why? For items, not for arrests, for items. That's what a search warrant is for. It's for items. We want to see that search warrant application. We want to understand why this operation existed in the way that it did. Why were people in a crowded apartment building put at risk, put in danger, such that not only was Mr. Locke killed, but a bullet left through his apartment's ceiling and into the floor of the apartment above, endangering those people as well. Why would the police engage in that conduct over things? This is reprehensible to us. It's not acceptable. And we want answers. We need to see that search warrant application. We need to see the body camera footage. We need to know absolute full transparency about every aspect of this incident. Further, I have questions of my own. As someone who has taught advanced cardiac life support and other kinds of emergency care for over 25 years, I want to know what happened with this man's medical care. Why was he left for 3 minutes without getting CPR? Why was he started to be treated upstairs and had to be carried by the officers down to EMS? And why didn't EMS come up to him so that they could put a Lucas or some other advanced cardiac life support on this man immediately? You know, I don't know about the nature of his injuries. We haven't learned that information. Maybe those injuries were catastrophic enough that he would not have survived. We don't know that. But again, we don't know that. It is reprehensible that the community cannot get these answers. The city promises transparency, and all they do is muddy the waters and make it difficult to impossible to know what the community needs to know so that we can understand the conduct of our police. And this, again, is unacceptable. And so we demand answers, and we demand them now. Not 6 months from now when the BCA finishes with their phony investigation. Not down the road when the city feels like everybody's forgotten about the incident and then they can let out a little bit of information. No, we demand those answers now. We're the community, we oversee our police, and we have every right to expect this data now. Thank you.
Next, we have the Executive Director of Care Minnesota, Jelani Hussain.
First of all, I want to send our deepest condolences to Amir Locke's family. I know that nothing we can do can bring back this beautiful life that was lost. And while we are all here fighting for justice for Amir, his family, and for the countless lives that are walking in our city, who may be gunned down by the same system that continues to gun down black and brown bodies across this country. Today is no different than the days after the killing of George Floyd, and the days after the killings of many others, Jamar Clark, Philando Castillo. Today we are standing again yet pleading with the public to understand that we currently have a system that has yet to transform, a system that has yet to be held checked, a system that yet has no transparency, and a system to this point has no accountability. I am extremely disappointed because I know that the law enforcement agencies are refusing to acknowledge their systemic racism and targeting and killing of Black people. What I'm also extremely disappointed is the public, but perhaps even most disappointed with our local media, who have been fooled over and over and over and over and over, and have yet to learn from this foolishness. Any other story, you would be asking for additional information, you would be asking for clarification, you would be asking to make sure that the public is informed with information that can give us a sense of understanding of what took place. After the killing of George Floyd, they said a man died from a medical reason. You ran with that story. You reported it. You were fooled then. Winston Smith was killed. They reported lies about him. And in this particular story, they shared with you his gun. They did not share the gun that killed him. They shared with you information that misled the public about the nature of who Amir was and the fact that Amir was not even a suspect or had anything to do with what we're there doing. He was an innocent person killed by a system that continues to kill the innocent. So I plead today to the public first. We have not changed the system in this state to protect Black lives and other lives. We have not done anything fundamental in the city of Minneapolis or in the state to hold police accountable. This will continue to happen until we make drastic changes. And second, to the media, it is time for you to hold the law enforcement to the same standards you hold the public, the private, and others. If they do not provide you the full information, you could have led with the story of what was true. A man was killed by the police. The rest of that information was not clear. And so we ask the media, do not be fooled. Do not play complicit to the murder, and particularly the misinformation and misleading that the Minneapolis Police Department and other police departments engage in trying to undermine what the public have been asking for, which is to transform public safety to do less harm. Today, we call the name Amir Locke. We call for justice for him. We call for transparency and accountability. We call for the mayor and the police chief to release the body camera as soon as possible. The family should have already saw it, and the public should have already seen it. It is the basic level of transparency that we have been asking and demanding for, and this is the least that we can ask for. The second, we want accountability. The mayor has saw it, the police chief has saw it, and if it warrants for this officer to be fired, he should have been already walking out from the building. And the prosecutor should already be bringing charges as soon as possible. We should not have to wait for a public outcry for injustice, because the greatest injustice is when those who are here to hold accountability refuse to do that. The county prosecutor, the mayor, the police chief, and others who are their responsibility when their officers kill people to hold them accountable. So we ask for those leaders to stand up in this moment and be held accountable, and to also hold those officers accountable. We demand justice for Amir by any means necessary.
That's right. Next, we have civil rights attorney and president of Racial Justice Network, Nakima Levy-Armstrong.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here once again to talk about this tragic killing of Amir Locke that happened in the city of Minneapolis. What I want to do is speak to the issue of complacency with regard to the behavior of the Minneapolis Police Department that has persisted for far too long. We have seen so much toxicity, so much tension, so much negativity, and even some division within the activism community about which is the correct course of action. But here's the reality. If it weren't for people like the folks who are standing here behind me, those who are around the perimeter standing in solidarity, those who've taken to the streets, those who've been arrested, those who've shut things down, those who've run for office to demand change, we would still be experiencing the ongoing abuse and killings of the Minneapolis Police Department while people remain silent. Now that people are so-called woke, what we are asking folks to do is to think about Amir Locke as they would their own son. It's very easy to see a young black man and to hear that he had a gun and to associate him with being a threat. And that is what the Minneapolis Police Department expected when they released to the media images of a gun. Completely unacceptable, and giving the impression that this young black man was a threat to the police, that he was a threat to society, when in reality, he was laying on a couch at a family member's home, covered up in a blanket, asleep. The police created that threat. The police created the violence. The police opened fire and killed a young black man who was not even a part of the warrant. It's unacceptable. The police shot bullets through the walls and ceiling of a residential community. That's what we're dealing with here. That's why we call Minnesota the Jim Crow North. People wonder, why are these things happening in Minnesota? Because now the world is watching. They've been happening in Minnesota. And the vast majority of individuals who claim that they care now have been silent for far too long. And even now, when it comes to black people wanting to feel safe, their focus is on dictating what that safety should look like and trying to demonize black folks who want to see a balance between public safety and community safety, who, if they have an emergency, if they are a victim of crime and they have to call 911, they don't want Derek Chauvin coming through the door. They don't want Mark Hanneman coming through the door. They don't want Tao, King, or Lane coming through the door. And the myriad of officers, some of whom have left the force, thank goodness, and others who are still on the force, who have lengthy disciplinary records and have never been held accountable. So this is not about, oh, there should have been question 2, or oh, there should have been no. This is about looking at the history of MPD, looking at the complacency that has happened, looking at people sitting on the sidelines, trying to focus on things that have nothing to do with the issues at hand. But what I would posit is right now, this is about a paradigm shift. This is about seeing the humanity of Amir Locke and demanding justice, transparency, and accountability in this case. This is about holding the Minneapolis Police Department accountable for releasing answers. We want to see the body camera footage. We want to see the warrants. We want to see who authorized the SWAT team in the first place. We want to see the process that allowed the St. Paul Police Department to engage the Minneapolis Police Department in a situation that they were not equipped to handle in the first place. We want to see an end to no-knock warrants within the city of Minneapolis, and we want to see justice. We don't want Amir to be demonized. We want Amir to be humanized and treated like somebody's son, somebody's brother, somebody's cousin, somebody's nephew, and somebody's friend. He should still be alive today. We will not tolerate the whitewashing by any elected official in this situation, by any police officer, by anyone sitting on the sidelines trying to justify what happened because Amir had a gun, someone who had a conceal and carry, someone who was exercising his Second Amendment rights as well he should. So it's time for us to be honest about what happened. It's time for the media to start reporting on policing differently and to stop regurgitating the same narratives over and over again and acting as the propaganda arm of the Minneapolis Police Department. Several in the media got mad because they didn't get the information first. And what we said to them was, well, what would you have done? Just reported what they said and not asked a damn question about what really happened? So if you want to be respected in delivering the news, then ask the critical questions. Hold these people accountable. Do the data request and then report on the truth. Don't just blow up handguns and pass on incendiary information. Show who Amir really was, a person who should still be alive today. Thank you. Excuse me, let people, you were disrespectful last night. We're not going to tolerate that. Let him finish, let the people speak, and then we will take questions. Respectful questions.
We still have a few more people to go. So next we'd like to invite up Sam with TCC for J.
My name's Sam Martinez. I'm here from the Twin Cities Coalition for Justice for Jamar. I'm also a representative for Minneapolis for Community Control Police. We stand in solidarity with Amir and his family. His brother should be here today. We stand in solidarity with these demands put forth by CUAPB and the rest of the people standing here today. Also, as a reminder, since we're taking names, it was the media who lied about Jamar Clark and accepted the lies from the city of Minneapolis and city council and city mayors when they drugged Rayanne Haynes that night and created false statements from her against Jamar Clark. And to this day, Jamar Clark's name is sullied because of what the media and this building full of blood on their hands has done. So we are not forgetting that. And let me remind the mayor, who has a strong mayor system now, like he wanted, and let me remind those city council members who once again were elected off the blood of our people dying in the streets at the hand of the police. Let me remind them, we told you that the uprising would happen. And if you want a George Floyd uprising 2.0, you continue on the same path. The people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. We are not putting up with this anymore. And if you came into office saying you wanted police accountability, and some of them even said they believed in community control of the police, then you better fucking stand up and do it. Because it don't matter who's in charge of the police. The fact of the matter is nobody's in charge of the police, and they do whatever they want. Because the article just came out that the Minneapolis Police Department has still been doping at people on ketamine, even though they were given directives by the city to not do it. So that tells me you have no control over your people. And so how do you expect us to expect people in the streets of Minneapolis to have control when this city decides to rule by the barrel of a gun? Second, I'd like to finish my statement at that point. I don't think there's anything else further to say. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to bring up the president and the founder of Family Supporting Families to share again.
I'd like to call another murderer to stand with me. And a child that may have lost his dad.
that look like me. When it comes to our black men in this community, they fear their lives. But white men can walk through protests with rifles, and they can walk free afterwards. We are tired. Our community is tired. How much can we beg? How much can we plead? How much can we talk to legislators before you understand that we are at the point where we're going to be right back where we was when George Floyd was murdered? Our backs is up against the wall. The community backs is up against the wall, and it's only so much more that we can take. We cannot take it anymore. Our families cannot take it. This is re-traumatizing every time this happens. Don't you think I think about Justin being in that garbage when I see this man get murdered on a couch for no reason? Don't you think this mother, this reminds her of what happened to her son? The lack of humanity in this state is horrific. You have no value for the black man life, and you guys have shown us that over and over and over again, because if you valued their lives, you wouldn't keep killing them, and you would hold these officers accountable. And now the Minneapolis police and the St. Paul police, both of the two most deadliest in the state, have worked together to conspire this man's murder yesterday. The blood is on your hands. Every last elected official that have allowed this to happen, because it's not the police alone that's done this. They've all worked together to do this. The BCA, Drew Evans, he's worked together to cover up the murders. And our families' lives is on the line because this state is being exposed. We in a season of exposure. And all of what you guys have been doing to black, indigenous, and minority people in the last 20 years, almost 500 bodies. So that means there's 500 families out here suffering and hurting, and you guys have allowed this. You've allowed it to happen. The police did not get to this place by themselves. You guys allowed this in this state, but guess what? We will not continue to allow it. So we want the videos released immediately for the sake of the family, for the sake of their closure, for the sake of what they deserve as a hurting, mourning family. The family deserves that video, and we want it released immediately. Thank you.
My name is Matilda Smith. We want justice for America. We are in a state of emergency. They are killing us, and they're steady killing us. Now, George Floyd wouldn't have happened if they stopped them before George Floyd. Amir, Dante Wright, Cordell Handy, Marcus Golden, Jamar Clark. This wouldn't happen if you all take care of this. This is a state of emergency. We're losing all of our black men. I lost my son. And it's not right. Some of you were born into this culture of killing black and indigenous people. So it seems normal to you all. But this is not the way it goes. It don't go this way. This is fucking murder. And they need to be convicted. Minnesota, you're on the map. Your state that allowed this. You are all being looked at. And we're going to make sure you all get the coverage that you all want. We're going to make sure that every time you kill someone here, the world is going to know about you. You have no shame, and you keep killing. We will not tolerate this anymore.
we're tired. And we're tired of being reminded of our own loved ones when you kill another one. We're sick and we're tired. I wonder, how did I wind up in this place? I wonder, how do anybody live here with they killing everybody? There is something wrong with you guys that think this is normal. This is not normal. You were born in this culture. It wasn't right when you were born.
Next, I'd like to invite community activist Tucson Morrison.
Justice, then peace. Accountability, then trust. Less than 10 years ago, this same thing happened. A little less than 10 years ago. It was in Uptown, 2013, a young black man was shot in the basement by police. And they ran with the narrative that they had taken one of his guns, that he had taken one of their guns. And you ran with it and we believed it. And when I saw it as a young man, a lot of people walked by and said, oh, well. Yesterday, you ran with the piece that he had a loaded gun. And maybe he did. Maybe you have one right now. Who knows? That does not justify Amir Locke being killed in cold blood by the SWAT team, by the MPD, being signed off by the St. Paul Police Department, then being investigated by the BCA for Drew Evans, who worked with Mona Doman, who signed off on the killing of Winston Smith. All of this goes hand in hand. And it is absolutely unacceptable. It is unacceptable for a black man to be woken up in the middle of sleep with a no-knock warrant, and then for the rest of you say, well, the police announced themselves at the door, so that justifies it. That justifies nothing. You try waking up in the middle of sleep, being cognizant, and not thinking that there's a threat at the door. They went to 2 other apartments before they knocked on that door and then killed Amir recklessly, like deputized cowboys. It is no different than Terrence Franklin. And it is the media's job, especially these major media news outlets. You have pension, you get health care, you just post a gun. And that somehow equals this young man deserved to die. When he wasn't even on the search warrant. Why were they there in the first place? Why is the mayor showing up huffing and puffing and shoulder shrugging and has no answers for anything? Why is Amelia Huffman taking no questions? Why can't these people be beholden to what we pay them for? They get paid by the city and they don't answer questions. I know people that don't earn anything, that show up with a phone and live stream things. They pay to be here, and they will show you more truth than a lot of these people that are getting paid tax paid, that are getting paid by our taxes and are getting paid by major news outlets. The least you could do is better. Do better. Speak to the family. Speak to the family. Stop being a mouthpiece for the police. Propaganda is just propaganda. If you take the word of John Elder over somebody that was in the actual apartment, shame on you. It is humiliating to have this happen again in the place that was supposed to be the origin for an international movement. And you sit here and you normalize it. And the last thing I'll finish off on is what Miss Matilda said. This is not normal. This isn't normal. And I know some of the brothers in the back here, we grew up seeing this as well. Where we were treated as disposable, we were treated as expendable, and you saw it from an early age. It didn't just happen in adulthood. You saw the way they treated us in the streets. You saw the way they treated your father. You saw the way they treated your grandfather. You saw the way they treated your uncle. You saw the way they treated your big brother. You saw that, and you internalized that. That psychologically tells a whole city of black children they are expendable. And they are not. Because Amir Locke was not expendable. He was a son, he was a brother, he was a family member, he was a community member that was awoken before dawn and shot and killed. As if the SWAT team is all of a sudden a group of assassins, just a better funded gang. This is absolutely unacceptable. And we're demanding better from the major media outlets. We're demanding better from the mayor, more than shoulder shrugs and non-responses. We're demanding better from Amelia Huffman, more than not taking questions. You are getting paid. You are the leader of a police department. The least you can do is answer questions to the people that you are supposed to protect and serve, not go out on assassin runs for. You owe answers. We need to see the body cam footage. Mark Hanneman needs to be fired. That is the last person that needs to be on the job, parading through an apartment building, shooting shots, and going through the ceiling, checking on the people above where they killed Amir Locke, and then asking them if they're okay. Anybody that works in the military understands that you have to case the background. Clearly, Mark Hanneman did not. We demand that you do better. We demand the body cam footage. Justice, then peace.
I'd also like to invite the president of the NAACP, Angela Rosemont.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Wilson. I'm the acting president of the Minneapolis NAACP. And what I'd like to do first is just have a moment of silence. Thank you. As I stood and listened to the previous individual speak on behalf of what has transpired this evening, there's a combination of things, emotions going on in the pit of my stomach because I have two sons. And sometimes it gets to the point that I'm so fearful for them. This is very consistent with what has already been said in terms of accountability. And I want to make a statement that's very sacerdotal, if you will. The police kill what they cannot control. One more time. The police kill what they cannot control. It's been said over and over again that we're tired. The word humanity is just a simple word which says care for your human brother. And as I go back and I think about some of the information that was shared, I thought that it's interesting to me how it's always easy to run with the negative without first getting all the information that's necessary in terms of putting out information. That being said, we talked about accountability. Accountability starts with our elected officials, the people that we put in office. And here we are 3 days into Black History Month. A month and a few days past, a few months and a few days past the new elected officials that have been placed in office. And again, we're getting the same rhetoric, the same attitudes, the same look away. When we're talking about accountability, what has to happen is, if you see something, because everybody sees, they know who the players are. And if you're silent, you're complicit. If you look away, you're complicit. The individuals who partook in this murder, that's exactly what it was. We can floss it, we can dazzle it up, but the truth of the matter is, this was murder. And if we feel comfortable, I heard somebody say it's not normal, but if we feel comfortable with what we have been experiencing, folks, it just saddens me. Let me I'll end this with a story. There was a kid who was raised by his mother and father. did everything right, tried to be that upholding kid that his parents had raised. As this kid grew up and got older, he recognized that the systems were extremely corrupt, and he wanted to make a change. Before this kid could even really make some impactful moves in his young life, his life was snatched away. So whenever we look at these young men that are being snatched away, we don't even know who we're taking away. We have no idea the next president, the next mayor, the next pastor, the next lawyer, but we're automatically just taking lives without any rhyme or reason. And then after we do it, not only do we demonize us, we don't care. We act like this is supposed to be the next day. Just move on. Get over it. But I tell you what, and I'll be done with this. There was justice for Justina, wasn't it? Yes. Immediately. This is what I'll leave on the record. As I speak not only for myself as a parent, but also as a community member, there has to be change. There has to be change. We said, yes, we want the police, but not like this. If there's not reform, and if there's not education, and if there's definitely not accountability, then it's time to go. And if you don't stand up, we will. Okay. We're here now, we'll be here tomorrow, and we'll be here forever.
Now we'll open it up for some questions.
Do any of you happen to know if the Locke family has viewed this body cam video yet?
We are learning that the body camera footage will be released this evening. Your reaction to it? I know that's just one of the demands, but the fact that it's anticipated to come out before the night is done, in response to that. I would just say that the norm should be that we shouldn't ask for it. The norm should be that there should be community organizing and protesting and demanding. This is an officer-involved shooting after perhaps the George Floyd incident, which I think historically will be seen through a different lens than we are right now. But the change that we hoped after George Floyd is that we wouldn't be asking for this thing, and we're still asking for it.
If I can add, I think it's a very good thing that they are releasing it, but I want to know why it took so long. To this day, to this minute, they still have not released officially this man's name. How ridiculous and utterly outrageous that they will not release the data that is to be public at all times in the originating agency. Release this information. You owe it to the community and to this man's family to recognize his name. And it is a good thing that they will release this body camera footage. I suspect it will show that this shooting was utterly unjustified. That transparency is necessary, but it has been more than 24 hours. They should have released it much sooner. Thank you.
Our community is together on this. And, I'm Reverend D. Bethel, pastor of New Beginnings Baptist Ministries, and also the chair of the Unity Community Mediation Team. One of the acts that we had, that we worked on all day, was for this body cam to be put out first to the family. First, we pray for this family. and we pray for a covering in the city. I ask permission to speak because we're here today at 6 o'clock to look at that body cam, to the community first, before it gets out to the media. I want the media to see that we are all together on this. Our tenets continue to be reform, transformation, accountability, consequences, and transparency. As we deal with law enforcement, we also have taken a stand to deal within our own communities. Good to see you, sister. Long fight. And so don't you divide us. All of our groups are here together. I beg of you. And we're going to get to the bottom of this, and it has to be transparency. So don't divide us. We're not divided. We are together. But community, we're asking you to trust us as we're here again today, all day long, because our community will never go up in an uproar because of any killings or murders, whether it's by the police or even by our community. Trust us in this and wait on us until tomorrow morning. Let's not do anything foolish for our city. We are here as a united front together. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Okay.
Dr. McKinney. Thank you, Dr. McKinney. I just want to ask a quick question. Do you feel the media handled this whole case abysmally by showing the narrative of a gun? And not only that, I seen the media also put something out about how reasons, how important that they would do damage if they hit one of the police officers. So I just wanted to elaborate on that.
Well, I think that the media was led by the Minneapolis Police Department on how to report this particular situation. There was intentionality on their part when they released the gun and the bullets that Amir allegedly had. We didn't see the gun, the high-powered weapons and the bullets that the police had. We didn't hear any evidence that Amir shot at the police, but we did see the evidence and the damage that's been done by the police shooting and killing Amir and being reckless within a residential apartment building. So I believe that the media handled this situation the way that we see time and time and time again, which is regurgitating the police narrative, believing what they hear without being skeptical, and not asking critical questions. I don't know how many press conferences activists have had to sneak into and disrupt in order to ask questions to get to the truth. The truth matters, and we want the media to report the truth. We want to thank independent journalists like you, like Georgia Ford, and others who are relentless in reporting the truth. And we want to thank those mainstream journalists who actually do reach out, follow up, and try to get the real story. Thank you.
Any other questions? We also want to ask that the video not be redacted. We also want to ask that the video not be redacted or edited in any way. We know that they have a history of going ahead and releasing the video, but then at that point we figure out that it's been audited and redacted. So we want clear footage. We don't want anything that's been tampered with at all. That's what we're asking for as well. Thank you.
As well as the context, right? Because I can imagine police releasing a certain segment of the video and using what we see in those few seconds as a justification for murdering someone. We've seen it in so many Thurman Blevins as one clear example of what happens to Law Eve, and then they're telling us, don't believe what you see, believe what we say. The whole context in this situation matters. From the moment the Minneapolis police decided to accept an assignment from the St. Paul Police Department, the moment that they gathered a SWAT team, the moment that they called emergency medical services and had them waiting as if they were expecting carnage and bloodshed. And then they kick open the door, as we've talked about before, and within 9 seconds, kill a young black man. And then what do they do after that? Report on their life-saving measures, trying to do CPR, as if they didn't just rip bullets through a man's body. What is the point of reporting that you did CPR after you just shot and killed somebody? And then why did they pick up this young man's body and take it down to the lobby? What kind of protocol is that? You called EMS ahead of time. Why would you try to act like a fake hero and bring a body down to a lobby? None of it makes any sense whatsoever. Delayed care, and then failing to bring forward the whole truth of what happened, such as what we've said before, that Amir was not even who they were looking for. So we're asking the media to report the truth, not to glorify the police narrative, but to humanize Amir Locke after all that he's been through.
It's very discombobulating for a nation of people to find out that this is over some stolen merchandise, and then all of a sudden an individual lose their life. Like, what was the search warrant about? Has the family seen the search warrant or anything of that nature? We'd like to see everything.
Right. I can't speak to whether I'm not at liberty to share whether they have seen the search warrant. But I would like, Michelle, if you want to talk about the incident report and what has been released.
That's right. I can tell you that the search warrant has not been released yet. One of the requirements under Minnesota law is after a warrant is served, within 10 days, the warrant and the warrant application must be filed with the court. So I think they're going to leverage that amount of 10 days before they actually file these documents, so that the community can actually get a look at what those documents are. Because at that point that they're filed with the court, they become public. And I think that they should not wait. I think that they should immediately release these documents even before they file them with the court, because we as a community have every right to know what possible reason they had for showing up at someone's apartment at the crack of dawn on a no-knock warrant over ostensibly some possibly stolen property. What possible reason could you have for that? And then take a man's life when he is merely defending himself as you burst through the door. We have a right to know.
Wasn't there some type of law being passed that there wasn't supposed to be no knock warrants anymore?
We got a bill through the legislature in the last session that was to put very strict guardrails around the use of no-knock warrants. We brought the bill forward. It was watered down, unfortunately, but even in a watered-down state, should have prevented what happened yesterday. It is clear that the officers are not following that law. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thanks everyone for being here. I'm going to keep working on getting more information. If you haven't seen my first video that I did, I actually went out to that one scene, and it was from what we were told, it was a for the first scene I was at for the homicide, and the warrant came out as, from my understanding with the information I have, I don't know if that's true and accurate, as we just heard, that's possible stolen merchandise now. So information's always evolving and constantly getting new and updated, so just stay tuned for, as I get more information, I'm constantly trying to update it, and sometimes it's super and crazy. Like, I don't even get done getting the video put together, and the whole video's outdated at that point because the information's already changed. So, you know, just, you know, pay attention to multiple different outlets. You know, different outlets are going to have different stuff. Like, you've seen the one guy being interviewed as one of the guys that attacked me when I was trying to cover the rally down at the high school. So he's definitely in and getting different information than I'm getting. But, you know, all I can say is just, you know, stay tuned to get as much information as you can get. I do appreciate everyone being here. I'm going to release a video here probably in the next hour or so. I was actually working on that one when this happened, of a standoff currently in St. Paul that I got last night or early this morning. About 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, there was a person in a car with a .22 in the front seat. Police shot a bunch of pepper balls at him. I'll let you know. Well, you're going to have to watch the video to see the outcome of that one. But anyway, guys, I appreciate everyone being here. I appreciate everyone jumping on. Stay tuned, and we're going to keep following the stories as they come out.